Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday. I think so. Today we are learning the eighth Perek of Nazir, and tomorrow we are finishing Nazir and starting Shota on Thursday, Rosh Hashanah. Today's shiur is the Nishmas Aaron Nachman Simcha Kodesh Shomor Chav Shavsa Bracha Sarah B'Shmoleb Neviah Moshe Ben Yosef Meid and Hashem Slachav Maliyah and before Shlema for Yisrael Ben Racha Leah Racha Bas Pesach Zalda Racha Eliana Nasir Bracha Aram Yisrael Barisha Chai Bas David Bela before Shlema B'Sof Shar Chol Yisrael and Shefer Bracha Bas Lechet Tzvidnach Bracha Racha Leah and Ziri B'Kara for Shmuel David Ben and the Miriam. Today's shiur is also sponsored by our sponsor for Seder Nashim. Shout out is the Imperial Advisory Group, an award-winning CFO advisory firm whose team of CFOs brings an average of more than 30 years of experience. They help businesses go beyond bookkeeping and accounting by providing strategic financial leadership, empowering leadership teams to make more informed big picture decisions. Learn more about Imperial Advisory at imperialgrp.com. Here we go. Perek Ches is a short perek. It's only two mishnayos, but they're kind of long. The mishnayos themselves are kind of long, especially Mishnah Aleph. So, Perek Ches Mishnah Aleph. Okay. Today we're dealing with situations in which the Nazir is uncertain if he became tamei from a mace. So we're gonna learn how the Nazir concludes his Nazirs in such a situations. So the uncertainty creates two major problems. On the one hand, the Nazir who becomes tamei must shave his head before he can begin counting his new term of Naziris again. On the other hand, a Nazir who is not tamei is also to shave his head until his term ends. So if a Nazir who is uncertain whether he is tamei or not faces the difficulty of finishing his term. He cannot shave his head because he may be tar, but he cannot cut his Naziris because he needs to shave his head in order to start counting his term of Naziris again. That's one. The second problem is which karbanos to bring. A Nazir who is tamei brings one set of karbanos, while a Nazir who is tahor and concludes his term brings a different set of karbanos. For example, a Nazir shaving for his tumah brings two birds, one as a chatas, one as an olah, and a lamb as an asham offering. Nazir is tahor and concluding his his full term brings a male lamb as an olah, a female lamb as a chatas, and a ram, an adult male sheep as a shlam offering, as we discussed a couple days ago. So all of these karbanos, whether he's a tamei bringing it or he's tahor bringing it, those are chiyuvim. But a person cannot bring a korban chova unless he is chayiv to do so. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a chova. Since he doesn't know which set of karbanos to bring, it would assume that he can't bring either one of them. So we're going to discuss that now. So shnei nazirim shamalahan echad. The two nazirim were standing together, and someone who was watching them from a distance said to them, "Re'isi echad mikem shenitma ve'eni yodeh eze mikem." I saw that one of you became tamei from a mace. I did not know which of you became tamei. So as a result, each Nazir is now in doubt whether he became tamei or is still tar. The one who became tamei must now shave, but the karbanos for the shaving of tumah, it has to shave and bring those karbanos and start counting his Nazirs all over again. The one who is still tar is also shaved now until he finishes his term of Nazirs, when he must bring the karbanos for the shaving of tahara. Since neither one knows what to do, they should do the following. They continue to observe the laws of Naziris until 30 days have passed from the time that they began their Nazirs. And at the end of the 30 days, Megalchin, they shave their heads. Since this is now permitted when their tamei are tahor, and korban tumah with korban tahara, and between both of them, they bring the karbanos for tumah and the karbanos for tahara. They don't each bring two sets, so they bring both sets together. They say, as we've seen this many other times, one of them says, if I am the one who's tamei, you are the one who's tahor, korban tumah shalit, korban tahara shalach. Then the offering for tumah is mine, and the offering for tahara is yours. But if I'm the one who's tahor, and you are the one who's tamei, korban tahara shalit, korban tumah shalach. Then the offering for tahara is mine, and the offering for tumah is yours. Therefore, the one who is tamei cannot start counting his Nazirs over again, and the one who is tahor has now completed his Nazirs. Okay, but we still don't know which of them completed his term, which one has just now begun to count his term. They now count another 30 days in Nazirs. And at the end of these 30 days, they bring between them the korban for tahara to conclude this new Nazirs count. Since only the one who was originally tamei is finishing this new count, and only one set of karbanos is brought and is designated for the correct Nazir in the following way. So even though they're both going to they're both going to hold a second period, but only one has to do so. So therefore, the one of the Nazirim says to the other, if I'm the one who is tamei and you are the one who is tahor, korban tumah shaliv, korban tahara shalach, was there korban taharasi. Then the offering for tumah that was previously brought, meaning a month ago, was mine. The korban for tahara that was brought then was yours, and concluded your Nazirs. And this korban of tahara being brought now is mine to conclude my new count of Nazirs. If I'm the Nazir who was tahor, and you're the one who was tamei, korban tahara shali with korban tamei shalach, korban tarascha. Then the offering of tahara that was brought previously was mine and concluded my Nazirs, and the offering of tumah that was brought then was yours, and you began to count your new term and have now concluded it in tahara. So that this korban of tahara being brought now is yours to complete your Nazirs. In this manner, both of them successfully complete their terms of Nazirs and make their karbanos. Okay, now another case. If one of the Nazirim died before they had a chance to act on the procedure above, what should the surviving Nazir do? Rabbi Yeshua said, "Yivakesh echem min hashuk sheyidor kenegdo benazir." The surviving Nazir should look for someone in the street who will vow to be a Nazir opposite him, meaning who wants to become a Nazir and who will agree to accept his Naziris under the special conditions that the Mishnah is going to explain now. But and the surviving Nazir says to him, if I was the one of the original Nazirim who became tamei, you should become a Nazir right now for 30 days. But if I am the one who's tahor, you should become Nazir after 30 days. Your Nazir should first begin 30 days from now and continue 30 days after that. Therefore, after the first 30 days, only one of them will be completing his Naziris and be obligated to bring tahara offerings, and they can bring these karbanos for whichever one really needs it. They first count 30 days for that, so that if the new Nazir actually became a Nazir right away, his term has ended. Korban tumah with korban tahara, and they then bring a korban for tumah and the korban for tahara. The korban for tumah is brought by the surviving Nazir for himself. Well, the offering for Tahara is brought by both Nazirim together. But Omer, the surviving Nazir then says to the new Nazir, if I am the one, the original Nazirim, who is tamei, korban tumah shall leave, korban Tahara shall the korban of tumah is mine, and the korban of Tahara is yours. Since you became a Nazir immediately, you have just finished your term of Naziris. Korban Tahara shall leave, korban tumah b'safik. But if I'm the one who is tahar, and I am the one now concluding my term, and the offering for tahara is mine, and you have just begun your Naziris, and the offering for tumah is brought in doubt. Okay, so this takes care of any possible tumah. At this point, the surviving Nazir is either beginning to count his Naziris if he was tamei before, or he is finished with his Naziris if he was not tamei. And the new Nazir is just the opposite. Under the terms of the agreement, if the surviving Nazir is now counting his Naziris, then the new Nazir is finished with his Naziris. And if the surviving Nazir is finished with his Naziris, then the new Nazir is now counting his term of Naziris. So now we're going to explain how this happens. The so French they now count another 30 days because one of them is definitely a Nazir now, Umavi and Korban Tahara, and after this they bring between them another Korban for Korban Tahara to conclude this additional Naziris term. One offering is enough for both of them because only one of them is really obligated in this term. Omer, the surviving Nazir says to the new Nazir, if I'm the one who's tamei, korban tamei shall leave, korban tahara shall left, because they're korban taharasi. The offering for tumah brought previously was mine, and the offering for tahara that was brought then was yours, and concluded your Naziris. And this korban for tahara that is being brought now is mine to conclude my Naziris. If I'm the one who is tahara, korban tahara shall leave, korban tamei b'safik, zehu korban taharas. Then the korban for tahara brought previously was mine to conclude my Naziris, and the korban for tumah that was brought at that time was offered in doubt. And this tahara offering being brought now is yours to complete your Nazir. So let's okay. Amala ben Zoma. So Ben Zoma rejects the solution as being impractical and gives a different solution instead. Right, so he says to Ben Zoma said to Rabbi Yeshua, now, who will listen to the surviving Nazir? Who will listen to the surviving Nazir to that become a Nazir opposite him by making a Naziris that two possible starting dates? As you should just say, well, who's going to do that? No one will want to accept such a Naziris because he will then have to practice Naziris for extra 30 days in doubt. It's already enough to ask him to do it once. Maybe ask him to do it twice. And someone says that that's totally not reasonable. Maybe chatas of behema. Rather, the surviving Nazir should deal with his uncertainty on his own. Right? By doing the following, he should observe his original 30-day term and then bring a bird chatas for a korban tumah in case he was tamei, and an animal, a male lamb, as an ola for a tahara offering in case he was tahar. Instead of finding someone else to join him, bring an offering of tahara together with him, and someone says he should just bring on his own just one of the tahara offerings in the ola, and that's enough to allow him to shave in case he's really tahara. You can't bring the chatas of the tahara of the korban tahara because that's a lamb, not a bird. And animal chatas cannot be brought in the case of a doubt. Nor would it qualify since for his tumah offering, since the chatas must be a bird. And he can't bring the shlamim because the Nazir shlamim must be accompanied by loaves of matzah, and these cannot be brought unless there's a clear chiv to bring them. Therefore, he brings only the ola now and the others after he finishes the second set of 30 days. He must, however, bring the ola now to allow him to shave his head and start. Together with the bird chatas he brings in case he was tamei, allows him to shave whether he was tamei or tahor. Where am I? Okay. V'omer. He then says, "Im tamei hayisi haychatas michovasi va'ola nedava." If I was tamei, the bird chatas is part of my chiyuv to bring tamei offerings, and the animal ola, which I am not obligated to bring since I was tamei, is a voluntary. Is a is a is a is rishus. It's a cover rishus. It's a voluntary offering. The entire hayisi. But if I was toher, then the ola will be offered as part of my shiur, part of my obligation to bring the tahara offerings, and the chatas, which I do not need since I was toher, is brought in doubt the possibility that I may have been tamei. Still a Mishnah Aleph. Keep going. The sofer shloshim yom. He counts another 30 days. He counts so at this point the person is certainly not a Nazir tamei anymore. He must still account for the possibility that he had been tamei. He must now count his Nazirs again. So therefore, the sofer shloshim yom, he counts another 30 days of Nazirs because he might have been tamei and might now count his Nazirs term again. But maybe Korban Tahara, he then brings the full Korban for Tahara, mean the Ola, the Chatas, and the Shlamim, to complete his Nazirs. If he had been tamei before, then he had just finished his new term in Tahara. And all three Kabbalas are for concluding his Nazirs. On the other hand, if he had not been tamei, then his term ended 30 days ago when he brought the Ola and shade, but he still owes the Chatas and Shlamim from that set of Kabbalas, since he only brought the Ola at that time. Therefore, the chadas of Shamim he brings now count for that. If he does not, however, owe another Ola, he must therefore make the Ola conditional as I see now. But Omer, and he says, Im tamei ayisi ha'ola harishona nedava v'zuchova. If I was tamei, then the first Ola, the one that was brought at the end of the first 30 days, was the voluntary korban, and this Ola is for my chiyuv and part of the tahara offerings for the conclusion of my Nazirs. If I was tahar, then the first ola, the one that I brought 30 years ago, was for my chiyuv to bring a korban for tahara, and this ola that I bring it now is a nedava, and this chadas and shtam that I'm bringing now is the remainder of my tahara offering. These together with the Ola I brought previously have now completed my Tahara offering. That's all according to Ben Zoma. Amar Rabbi Yeshua said, maybe the result of this procedure is that the Nazir brings his Tahara offerings in parts, because if he was Tahar, he brought his Ola at the end of the first 30 days and the Chadas and Shlamim at the end of the second 30 days. But the Mishnah concludes, however, the Chachamim agreed with Ben Zoma that the Nazir should do what he suggested, and there is no problem with bringing the Tahara offering at two separate times. The Gemara explains over here that Yeshua also agrees that the Korban may be brought at separate times. He made a comment to teach the students that they should not be embarrassed to ask a question even when others may ridicule it. Good stuff. Okay, Mishnah Beis, shorter than Mishnah Aleph. That'll be for today. Okay, so having taught the law of a Nazir who's uncertain if he became tamei from a corpse, the Mishnah now deals with a case where, in addition to this uncertainty, the Nazir is also in doubt whether he became a Mitzorah. Since he might be Mitzorah, he must undergo a procedure to purify himself from it before he can continue his Naziris count. The procedure requires him to shave his entire body, including his head, on two separate occasions. On the one hand, if he's not a Mitzorah, he is simply a Nazir who is not allowed to shave his head. Sorry, on the other hand, if he's not a Mitzorah, he's simply a Nazir, then he's not allowed to shave his head at all. Excuse me. In order to find the way out of all these doubts and purify himself from possible tsaras, possible corpse tuma, and conclude his Nazirs, the person must perform the various shaves he needs only on days when he's permitted to shave, no matter what he is. But so are Nazir tamei or Nazir Tahir. This Mishnah is teaching us how long it takes for him to complete his Tahara process in this manner, and how much more time he needs to conclude his Nazirs. So here we go, Mishnah base. Nazir Shayatame Besafik. If a Nazir is in doubt whether he was tamei from a mace, or Muchla Besafik, and also in doubt whether he was a confirmed Misora whose Saras had healed, Ochel Bekatsim Acher Shishim Yom. He may eat holy foods, meaning karbanos, only after 60 days from the beginning of the term. This is because he might be a healed Mitzorah who is also to eat karbanos until he has brought his karbanos. Before he can begin his karbanos, he must purify himself and shave his entire body twice. This presents a problem for him because he's also a Nazir, and Nazir can't shave unless he is sure that he's a Mitzorah. As a result, he can shave only on days when shaving is mutter to him, whether or not he's a Mitzorah. These days occur every 30 days, and therefore it takes him 60 days to accomplish the two body shaves of a Mitzorah. He can now finish the process of purifying himself from the possibility that he was a Mitzorah by bringing his karbanos on the next day after 60 days. He is then free to eat karbanos. At this point, he's definitely no longer a Mitzorah, but he is still possibly a Nazir tamei or a Nazir Torah. Therefore, the shows in the time of the Mason, Acher Me'eves Yom, he can drink wine and become tamei to the dead after 120 days from the beginning of his original Naziris, because he must now take care of the possibility that he was a Nazir, became tamei from a corpse, and then concluded Naziris. This takes another 60 days, as we learned from Mishnah. Therefore, he cannot drink wine or become tamei to a mace until 120 days have passed, meaning 60 plus 60. So why should tiglachas hanega docha tiglachas anazir bisman shehu v'sivada? Because this obligation to shave for the purposes of purifying a person from a saras affliction overrides the issur for a nazir to shave only when the saras and its obligation to shave are certain. Al-Zman shehi suffik in a docha, but when the chiyuv of shaving is doubtful, such as in our case, it does not override the issur of a nazir to shave. That is all for today. We will see you tomorrow as we conclude Nazir. Have a wonderful day.